Hi there, I want to welcome all of you to the planning and zoning commission work meeting for our general plan. We have with us today Kevin Smedley, and just start right up during the time.
You guys all need to turn on your microphones and be sure you speak in the microphone. I forgot to turn those on.
Okay, just push the button.
Just put the button
Should
at the
be a
bottom
button.
and hold it until you see the light go on. We light on right here. You push the button on the bottom, then check, there you go.
Okay. Last time I just handed out the general plan, current general plan we had, and kind of explained what would be going on. So I have a few handouts that are in front of you. The first one is the general plan. It says general plan elements. These are the ones that are required, the three at the top, and actually the third one you're exempt from. You're not required to do the housing element, a moderate income housing element. And I just keep that fourth bullet on there because any session the legislature can add more requirements. But this session, they did not add anything that you're required to do. At least not with the general plan. You have other tasks that you must. So with the updated your zoning ordinance. And as you can see, other than land use, transportation and traffic circulation, there's any number of elements that you can include. And as we're going through this process, setting up open houses, getting feedback and all that stuff, some of these might stand out. The majority might not be of interest to you. It's up to you. And as it says, it's not an exhaustive list. You can make up your own elements. So you can do some research and get information on any topic that you might want. On the back is just an example of the steps we'll be taking. We already have the approval of the town council. And then we met initially, so first steps are really reviewing the general plan and then establishing an open house and a survey that we'll be using. And then the rest of the steps go on. We hold the town meeting, work on the draft. I found it easiest to work on one component or one element at a time, so that you're not getting confused unless there's some simple ones and you want to just charge through and get through them. At the end of that process, you can either hold another community open house to review it, or you can use your public hearing as that meeting where people have a chance to review it. It's all up to you. Following the public hearing, then it goes to the town council and it's for them to adopt. So you do a recommendation to the town council and then they adopt. They can make changes, they can modify it, they can send it back to you saying, we'd like this added or that added. It's, well, hopefully we work enough with them during the process that we don't have any surprises at the end. Okay. The second, the clipped sections are, I brought 3 samples of open surveys, community surveys. One for Paraguna, one for Minersville, and one for Escalante. As you can see, some of them are very simple. Some are not. Like Paraguna actually got a lot of information out of the first page, which talks about their background. They got the ages of the survey, people that took the survey. They got the sex, they got the number of years they lived in Paraguna, number of people in the household, income. That one actually turned out to be, some people replied and most people preferred not to answer, so, which is common. And then the makeup of the community, both who they were, but also if they were a part-time resident or a year-round resident. So if you look at those. And then they got to the questions that they were interested in. And their lot size was a big thing. Short-term rentals was a big thing, so they asked some questions related to that. Code enforcement was another issue that they wanted feedback on from the community, as well as police presence there. They contract with the county to provide police service in every visit as another charge to the community, right? And then, just a little bit more about Parks and Rec. And for them, septic was a big issue because they are in the basin that is, they only have a few more septic permit capacity, and then they have to start looking at sewers. Minersville, a similar thing. I won't go through each of them individually. You can just glance through it. At the very end, they got a little bit of information about the people that took the survey. And then the same with Escalante. Theirs was a little bit longer survey. And they were very concerned about it just going to residents. So it wasn't posted online, it was just handed out. So, they give a lot of outside input into their community because of being within the, Grand Staircase National. And it's, you know, it can just overwhelm the information to go through. Now, as you look at these questions and then as you review them, part of what we want to start talking about tonight is the issues that you've seen coming up, the issues that you think we need to address as we go through the update. That being said, these questions that we ask the community, it's a sample, and it might not be a good sample. That's part of doing sampling within a small community. You might get just a very narrow group that participates, or you might get a broader group. I brought the Paraguna survey just to show you kind of the results you can get. So this is a summary of the survey. It's the last item we have there. That's why I went over it a little bit. At the beginning. As you can see, there was a range of ages that took the survey. The majority were 45 and older. There were a few that were not, you know, that were in their 20s and 30s, but the majority were older than 45 or old. It was about even between male and female. One interesting thing that came out on the question of how many years have you lived in Paraguna, the longest one was 61 years. The shortest one was 1 year, and the median was 9 years. So there's a lot in the younger ages, or the younger years of living in Paraguna. So half of the respondents had lived there less than 9 years, and the other half lived there longer. So, and as a community change, you want to get that input from new community members, but you also value the input from people that have lived there a long time. They have a history that sometimes will offer things that really provide good insights that you're looking for. We won't go over the income. You can see the household makeup. There was a lot of single people, a lot of just couples, and a few households with children. 40 full-time residents, 1 part-time resident. Now, that being said, there were 49 responses, so some people don't fill out every question, right?
And how big of a market area was this? I mean, was there 1,000 sent out, 100 sent out?
It was distributed. Their town hall is right next to the post office, which everyone has a post office box.
All right.
And the postmaster, the postmistress was a member of the town council, so whenever she was there, the hours she was there, she would ask them if you had a survey and hand them out that way. So this was actually a really high response rate.
So, yeah, do I know, my question was how many surveys were handed out?
Right,
It says 50 at the top of the form.
No, those were,
50 got turned in, I don't
so
know.
50 got turned in.
right.
Population.
Exactly.
I don't know, I didn't control how, and they didn't have really an accurate count of how many they handed out. They weren't numbered or anything, so, yeah. it
So if
was-
we have 600 or 700
Can I ask,
residents, are we expecting 60 or 70 responses or?
That's a great response rate, actually.
So 10%
Yeah, 10% is a phenomenal
Okay.
return.
I bet we get more.
Mayor. I want to ask the mayor, may I ask you, is there a possibility of sending these out with a newsletter? Because that would make sure it went to just every household.
I'm sorry, I was.
We're talking about surveys, right?
I heard you guys were talking about surveys.
Yeah, we're talking about surveys, and I just want to know distribution wise, is sending it out with a newsletter something we could do? Because you do that monthly.
How big is the survey?
We don't know.
We don't know yet, we're just trying to find out distribution, I mean, it wouldn't be more than probably 2 pages, like
Well, we can
back
send
in
it to the
front.
newsletter, if it's like 2 pages, we
Okay.
send it to the newsletter, but at the same time, we can also, if it's something we can email. We always follow the newsletters, emails it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And then you can see the other responses about the number of responses. And then there's just all the comments that people made were just recorded. So you can read through the comments that were made on different questions. Now, if you turn to the last 2 pages, some of this stuff is easy to understand if you look at it graphically. And so I put together some graphs just showing that, for whatever reason, on the second graph, it dropped, the median was 9. So, but it gives you an idea of household size within your community. It gives you a feel for the age of the respondents, for, you know, their household and living situation, and then the questions that they ask. You can tell on some of these questions, the left side being keep it where it's at, and the right side being more often or more of it. You can see people, there's a variety of opinions, and even within, I happened to see 2 people turn one in. Their handwriting was similar. I think one wrote it for the other one. And I think they were from the same household, and they had differing opinions on the survey, so you know, you never know. Anyway, so that's kind of gives you an idea of the kind of responses, and some of these questions were good questions, and some probably could have been tailored differently to get a better response or more understandable response. But you also want to lead people, right? You want to get their honest opinion on whatever questions you have. Now, when we left last time, I'd handed you out the current general plan. And so is there anything in the general plan that stood out to you that maybe needs to be addressed?
I think it's been mentioned a few times, but it was encouraging RV parks. And not that we want to totally discourage it, of course, but I think that just from a quick count, there's like over 3,000 potential people that could stay in the town of Virgin transient beds, I guess. So I don't know if we need to encourage that part of the general plan. I think we need businesses that will help maintain the people that are staying there, restaurants and.
Okay.
I think a balanced approach to how we want the whole town to grow is what you're saying.
Yes, I think we hit that goal.
You have to feel like you feel like you get the goal with the number of people that can stay, either with an RV, well, it's all RVs or those
Tents and
tents.
Under the same goal number 2, higher density housing. Which sounds lovely, but taken with our geographic locations, our present situation with water and septic, we should think about that one.
So water and septic are limiting.
yes.
I'll tell you one thing to keep in mind as you guys are talking about campgrounds, with what you said. Some of our income resort tax that we get to charge there's only like 10 towns in all Utah that get to charge a resort tax on one of them. And it is how many transient lodging units do you have as opposed to how many houses you have in town. And if you have more transient lodging units than you do houses, and there's a certain percentage that you gotta maintain. We get to charge the resort tax. If we get to the point to where the balance is out and have more homes, we have transient lodging units, we lose that revenue. So I want you guys to keep this, well, I'll let you know what the formula is,
Yeah, we need.
but you wanna keep that so that we get that revenue.
And
I
then
don't ever wanna have more houses than transient lodging, because then we lose that.
Well, a fat chance on that.
Well, for now, but I'm just saying, if you're doing, it needs to be
Yeah.
something to keep in mind in the general plan.
Thank you.
And even in the responses I read here, and the ones I read from the survey that was done in 18, was it the last one? Nobody wants growth, but how do you preface it with, well, the town needs a certain amount of commercial to support the town, if you want. If you just want to maintain what we have and never do anything more, then there's no money to maintenance or publicity.
What survey said no more?
No, if you look at Paragon. Paragon.
Oh, Paragon.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not talking Virgin.
No,
Oh, okay.
but the
I
one
like
that
it.
came, just about everybody on there saying, I love the small town character.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose that, I don't want to, I think we're good on growth. But majority of the answers here on this one too are the same thing.
Well,
Which I think that happened from small town, safe, small, quiet, small, quiet, small, rural.
okay.
Well, the trick is to maintain the character of the town that you've got, the way that you want it. And within that, have the type of business base and communities and, you know, all the elements that we want. So we gotta think big picture. We need to get not stuck on any one small picture. Let's make sure we're thinking, especially as we begin, about all the elements that we want in our town and the way that balance will.
And I know as part of that balance, I know we get tax. Resort tax. But in an economic crisis,
We'll lose that.
we'll lose that. And so having
Essential services.
having a basic of housing, you're always gonna get your property tax. And that's another example of where balance is.
Well, and
important.
yes, and even more than that, the balance of businesses. We need to have essential services as well as, you know, a more tourist-based segment of our economy. So we gotta make sure we have all those.
I'll just show you guys, I'll give you guys for your own information, the thing we get that shows all our revenue sources. And property taxes is like so
Yeah,
minute.
property here, less than,
What we get in sales and resort tax. That what we had supporting us, where we were like a verge of a hair away from bankruptcy every year, was when we were relying on, property taxes.
right, but we also,
That allows us to do the absolute bare minimum.
right,
So the resort tax is hotel.
All it counts, you have to add up all your, we have to, once a year,
RHS, everything.
once a year, we have to add up all our transient lodging units, and we have to turn it in to the state franchise board, and they calculate whether or not we get a charge for sales tax.
I have those
And they
chapters
say
that
tell us
cover
this.
over to you. So we'll forward that to you, so.
I know that when this survey was done, there was no, when this general plan was done, there was no surveys. It was strictly open houses, so I kind of feel like there's not enough, input from.
One of the things that you can also utilize and, are open-ended comments. So, or open-ended questions, so that people can, and that's what those several pages generally were, that they were a response to things that the respondents have a specific interest in, or, and you generally get responses that are, more keep this away type responses. But sometimes you get very productive ones that are like, we would like to see this, we would like to see that. And so, yeah, we can craft some questions to address issues. Any other issues you saw as you went through the existing general plan?
Well, just a lack of specificity.
Thank you, that's the word.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's, especially with the way, and correct me if I'm wrong, the way that the laws are heading in the state, I think we do ourselves a lot of favors by having a really, yeah, pretty specific idea of what we'd like to see. So,
Right.
yeah,
And your specificity actually comes in most effectively when within your general plan, when you have policies that direct you to amend your code so that you can actually apply things by law that will help you to become who you want.
right, and that's where ours lacks entirely. There's almost no tie from our very general plan to what our ordinance actually dictates.
And is there
Or no.
any kind of future land use thing in this general plan? I don't.
So most communities utilize their zoning map as a map. There's a few communities that would like to see changes from what their zoning is. So they prepare a general plan map that projects their vision of the future, where you would like commercial or maybe some commercial nodes, or where you would like to see, whatever cost.
From our conversations and even from town council, I think that's where we're headed. That's what we need to be looking at is future zoning, incorporating that into the map and this general plan now.
Yeah, it's more effective if you do have a map that is a zone. I mean, they're actually very close generally, usually.
Yeah.
Because if someone has commercial zoning on their property, it's hard to take that away because it can be viewed under law as a
That's
taking,
right.
right? And so, you need to take those sorts of things into consideration. Unless they're a willing person to say, I've had this on my property, I really don't ever want to develop it this way. And I would like to see this change to whatever other use it would be. So that's where you have the opportunity to make some, especially along the highway or something. So, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Are there any topics that were not discussed in the general plan that you're scratching your head wondering why?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I have a list somewhere.
Oh, I'll tell you one thing I think we should put in the general plan, even though as a town, we're not required to, has to do with, affordable housing.
Moderate income housing, yeah.
Moderate income housing, I think as soon as we hit 1,000 population, we become a city, and then we have to have it in our general plan, and we're at around 700, so it won't take too long before, even before we do the next general plan, we may
Correct.
cross over and become an actual city.
And there's other
And
things
so
that
I
come
think
into
we should-
play.
I want to look forward
Right.
and be prepared for that day.
And even when I was working with Minersville, which is not anywhere close to that, I would encourage people because that's the big focus on the legislature right now. Every session has been lots and lots of discussion about general plan or about moderate income housing. The state is almost 40,000 units short of housing that people can afford. And so the lion's share of that falls on the Wasatch Front, the demand, right? But there's demand everywhere. And so they could have, any legislature, any year, just say, we're just gonna require this in every.
Right.
So,
how well versed are you? Because I think in a community like ours, especially where the resources are limited, finding out, alternative ways rather than having big multi-housing unit type things. I mean, I know, I've read, but are you good at that? Are you good at helping us kind of, tap into ways that we can have our neighborhoods provide more housing without having to I would call it overdevelop too soon?
Right, and one of the things that the legislature has actually passed that, you have to allow is interior accessory dwelling unit. A lot of communities also within their zoning code adopt to allow, detached. So in other words, it could be over a garage, it could be built in addition to what you have on your property. Kind of, a lot of, people refer to them as casitas or as a mother-in-law apartment. So it's usually a standalone, one bedroom, maybe two, depending on the size of the lot. And they have a small kid, it's someplace someone can comfortably live, but it's attached on that property. So, and there's requirements, it has to be, smaller than the principal home. And you can make all kinds of requirements in your zoning code that make it comfortable for you. For example, you can require, owner occupied main house. You can, so that its property just doesn't turn into a rental place, that sort of. And a lot of communities are, and this has actually been a lot of discussion in the legislature, allowing duplexes within any zone.
Mhm.
And so, I don't know if there would be the market demand for that, but, if it were, you could, twin homes designed properly
There's a
or.
nice
or
one
nice.
in Perkin, it's 600.
So,
Right now, our code only requires a single family dwelling per acre.
right,
So we couldn't even do duplexes if we wanted to right now.
But
Right.
looking out ahead
Are we looking
at the
ahead?
layers, how we
Right.
want to let it happen.
and some of the things that the legislature has been focusing. So, but, as you know, water and septic are really
Right.
going to limit what you can do. And so,
Another option would be in commercial, modify it, commercial habitation to allow for either a business in front and the housing unit in back. Or if it's not too tall, above.
right,
Right,
Don't we already have that?
we do. We
Or
actually
maybe
do
it's
have that.
commercial housing.
It's called limited commercial habitation.
Yeah, we
But isn't that mostly for employees of that business?
Isn't that what you're talking about?
That's what we,
Kinda, but it wouldn't have to be limited to that business.
Oh, it would be something that could be rented out. Us.
so here's a really off the wall, subject. So tell me what other communities have done about, I don't know how to say this, but this is not about short-term rentals, this is about long-term rentals. About what do other communities do to deal with giant, entities buying up neighborhoods and turning them into solely rental neighborhoods? Like, do we have?
your zoning code can be, tailored so that you only have a certain number are allowed.
That's what I thought.
Or they can only be within a certain distance of each other.
That's what I thought.
And most communities do a combination of that,
Right,
where, they don't want them all in one spot, but they also limit the number so that it,
thank you,
you
all
know,
right.
that being said, the legislature does not allow you to monitor people advertising for short-term.
Okay, so this isn't short-term, we're not talking about short-term, I'm
Right.
talking about long-term. I'm talking about having
Oh,
whole
leases.
Oh, leasing and that,
whole leased community. So in other words, if BlackRock or Vanguard wants to come and buy
Yeah.
the entire 3 neighborhoods we have left, what can we do in our code that could make it, is there anything we can do to make it so we have people ownership,
That one I don't know.
Okay, well, that's.
I know that there's a movement in Congress to require companies like that to divest of those homes within a period of time because
Yeah, there's a
it has
lot.
driven up
Yes,
um,
that's so bad.
rental prices
That's right.
all over.
So we just want to protect ourselves from that perhaps.
I'd like to include, lease to own in that protection if we can.
Oh, okay.
How do you track or regulate long-term rentals?
Well, no, you don't track, if you own a home, you can rent it.
Yeah, but I mean, how do you know what the percentage of houses are rented versus homeownership? Cause
So
there,
it would be a
The
giant,
main reason, the main way we would know is who we send the water bill to.
the utility, so you track the homeownership versus who the.
Well, we can see who's getting the water.
Yeah, we know.
Do they require a copy of the lease?
Yeah, we could do
You-
that. Yeah. we could.
anyway, so there's some other things too. I know what you're saying. Yeah, it was tricky, but.
And just encourage people to talk to their national legislators
Yeah.
to support that kind of legislation, because there is a big movement in conversations about.
I want to say something that, a little bit off topic, but because of what you brought up about the legislation, when you guys are registering for the conference in 2 weeks, there's a seminar on housing. There's a seminar on how to approach your legislators, how to advocate. So you were talking about advocating, so there is a seminar going on how to do legislative advocacy.
Thank you. I am going now, by the way, all of you, I did my duty. And I'm grateful, Mayor, for.
And depending on, because I think workshops take place at the same time, do they not?
Yeah, they'll have like 5 or 6 at a time.
So we should kind of
Yeah.
tag in, right?
Good suggestion. Okay, so, anybody else have anything, just, nine, we had to do that. What's our next one?
No, just any other topics that you feel like you would like. Let's get back to survey questions, so. Any topic there, you brought up the RV, balancing the RV parks, bringing in, commercial that supports the community. And as well as tourism.
I think,
A topic on the water and the limitations basically from your utilities, water and septic, resort tax, property tax. Oh, property tax.
so, you want some more topics that are important, is that what you're after?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, so-
or, and then if there's any that you have a specific question that you feel like we can ask the community.
One of the, yes, so one of the big, I'm gonna ask you, and ask you this first, and then, one of the big issues is our town's cut in half, right, just right down the middle, and finding solutions for access, across SR9 for people, you know,
Mhm.
that's a puzzle that I haven't been able to find an answer to, but that's one, maybe someone in the community has some brilliant ideas, maybe we can get some community support, maybe we get some, I don't know, maybe someone would wanna donate an access point, I don't know. But I think access, I think trails, I think parks, I think, making, well, sort of the nature and the recreation that we have available here, accessible to the community, I think that's an important issue. And I think the better we plan it, you know, the better it will age. I think our town, I think it will grow, you know, it'll be a much nicer place if we now, before there's too many people, decide how access to our community is gonna look on foot and for recreation.
Do you have, people that come here as, and use your community, places in your community as a trailhead to get on?
Not so
mountain
much
biking or
Yeah,
hiking?
but it will be that way. certainly.
You have the gym trail. Yeah, the gym.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But that access is moved. Right.
Well, we have some unutilized
Salt and wash.
parks and things.
We have, I think we're a transportation corridor to get to trails for mountain bikes and hikes and. There is a proposed, multi-use path, I think I said that correctly. That is going to eventually go from St. George to Zion, that goes right up Zion. And they're going to have trailhead, a hub, I believe, right around Old Terrace Road.
The opposite, that was.
Some other things that I think that are priority are,
Walk from one end of the town to the other, all perfect.
anyway, I think, oh, no, what's my train of thought? Let's see, what was I thinking? Oh, we need, you were saying access. It really did slip my mind completely, and it's really important.
It'll come back.
There's two things, yeah, and come back. Somebody else should think, well, it comes back, wanders back. Oh, yeah, okay, what about preserving agricultural districts? And our, and heritage district, like history, or historical districts. I know we don't wanna, and I don't know how we wanna handle that, because we don't wanna give ourselves more regulation and more, ties to, I don't know how we want it. Let's just say that's something I'd like to hear from the community on, how they'd like to handle, some historic preservation, a historic district in the town. And also preserving agriculture, and I think we need to talk about the river, like how do we want to protect our river? What kind of access do we want? For the river, around the river, at the river, like all those kind of things are things that, because we want it to be accessible to the town, but how much of it do we want to be accessible to tourists versus town people? I mean,
Wouldn't that be included in the recreation?
oh, yes, I was getting more specific, yeah. And also, what about ridge lines and mesa tops and our scenery, all those kind of things, what needs to be in.
I think definitely questions regarding that.
Yes, let's put, these are the questions but I think we need specific questions about,
Absolutely.
the more specific, the better the information, and we don't wanna give them a whole, they won't do it if it's too immense. They won't do the survey if it's too
Well,
immense.
and people look at some of the questions from the former survey. Right, but I was just gonna say, two of the former surveys that I know about got a lot of pushback about being leading questions
Sure.
and not, so that's pretty important to keep in mind too.
Well, but I think we're smart, we can figure out how to ask a question about the river without leading, like, what do you wanna do with the river? You know? What do you think should be done with the river? That's.
Another thing that's effective or can be effective is having a large map of the community,
Yes,
maybe with the zoning on it or not, but letting people give them Post-its and let them write comments related to specific points.
oh, that's a great idea,
We did that at our last open house.
didn't you? That's a great idea, is there a digital, I wonder if this is a digital version. Anyway. But,
There may be through, I have to look into it through story maps and maybe.
okay,
I don't think there is a good one for that one, because I attended several of those open houses and there were some trends there that are definitely not reflected in this document.
okay,
But that also makes it very interactive when you do it in physical on,
I love that,
Board.
yes, I love
and
it,
it engages people.
No, I love that idea.
Posters, yeah.
that's a great idea. Like, if you girls are gonna. You guys have a lot of ideas on that, I'm hoping you're gonna want that to be your job.
We'll talk.
Yeah.
It's
Mayor
just
said-
setting up the process
Yeah,
and then monitoring it.
Right.
And what about, budget for a general plan for supplies for open houses, coming up with the survey. That's usually, digital, like Monkey, Survey Monkey.
Right.
But we might need to have paper copies as well, because I understand there's people in town that don't use email,
That's right.
so we have to keep that in mind.
So I can do a lot of things just through our office.
Oh, great.
And, I don't have access to a plotter, stuff like that. If you want large maps, I'll have to find out. For my supervisor, if I can print out a large map, right now I can print one of my 17s. That's the largest I can do. And so, but I can do a lot with that.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
And the steamroller might be able to get bigger if we have.
They can do up to 24, only up to 24 inches, It's the biggest they can do, but I know where we can.
Okay. But again, we'll need a budget.
Yeah, mayor.
Yeah.
Mayor, but not just saying.
That only took 3 times.
All right.
Well,
My concern with the current plan is it seems bipolar.
Oh, yeah, what do you think?
And let's build every RV park and this and this and this, but let's protect our geology. And then when I see the RV parks going in, I don't see floodplain taking on it, and Mother Nature's gonna win every time.
That's because it was split, it's been adjusted, let's just say.
I'm sorry.
Here, mayor, here.
No, but you can.
there we go.
I was sitting over here dying of thirst.
Good, but didn't already.
Okay, so what if we put her next?
I didn't have this.
Oh, Darlene, you finished.
I'm good.
So, we have a list of things here. Do you want to start working on some topics or questions? I mean, survey questions? You want to flesh them out a little bit more? We can discuss a little bit
Tell
more.
us.
I think we need categories. We've got land use,
Okay.
transportation and traffic, which we must have, correct? But which of the others do we don't?
We
where's
have
the
some
balance?
housing section, question in here about housing.
It's a housing neighborhood, let's see neighborhood, is that a good subject?
I think we should include. We mentioned dark skies, we mentioned trails, we've mentioned tourism, historic preservation. I agree with the parks and recreation. The idea of a main street, we don't turn around.
What?
The idea of a main street might be good. These are all good. How can we put them into other bigger buckets? Some of them are repetitive. One we don't have to consider is urban forestry.
That's true.
Is there, a general rule about which should come first? The certain open house and a survey, then another open house, or is there any?
It's simply what you would like to do. The communities I've been working with this past year, just about house, but you can do more than one. You can also have several comment periods or just leave the comment period open-ended. So depending on what I mean, at some point you need to look through the responses
Right.
and use that input. Evaluate if it's valuable to you or not, because the input is what it is, it's someone's opinion, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully you have, from all this input, you have a broader view maybe of the community, and so you can focus on, well, maybe if we could address that in this way, or we could address it that way, or this really doesn't warrant being addressed.
So I kind of think we should do a survey first, and then write on it, because I think that'll get the conversation going. And then I think we should plan shortly, because I'd like to get the open houses done quickly, not like immediately, but like June 1st.
Oh, well, I don't know, will we be able to get a survey by then?
Maybe not until July,
That's
but I just
pretty
waited summer, I know, sorry, I always jump again. But anyway, but the point is to get a survey out, give it a month, and then then get bring people together and do that kind of, the networking.
I would like to see 2 open houses because.
That's what I'm thinking.
I think so.
That's what I'm thinking. And if we're getting into July, I would,
Well, let's have our 4th of July celebration. We should
well,
have
but a lot of people are gone. Yeah, then.
I'm just saying. have a little bit.
And I don't know, I mean, they'd be back in August. But
Okay.
when school is back and all, I know what I'm going to say.
Yeah, but I was just gonna say, they not need to do we have a year, it's gonna take a year to do a general plan.
Okay,
Isn't that a normal
It's,
process?
it's
A year?
helpful to get a or the open house
done first.
done, or just so the community knows you're actually doing an update.
And
they
then do
can-
another one like 6 months later or something like that, or
Yeah, just towards the end of the process,
Have another-
giving
so it's not-
feedback.
But even at each of those, just because because of everybody's schedules.
Yeah.
You know how hard it is just to find a time when we all, 5 of us can be here, right? I think we need to respect that in our community.
Well,
And the
maybe
more
one
places-
open house in the evening, one in the afternoon.
Or one in the morning, or on the weekend.
Or maybe
Right,
the 2.
Right. A Saturday.
Yeah.
Um, I know I brought this up once before, but I like the idea of a suggestion box in the town hall.
That's a great idea, especially while it's going on, then if someone thinks,
Right.
okay, writing this down.
Right. You can even create a digital.
Yes, yeah. I want as much input as we can think of to gather. You know?
That could be part of our forums or something.
Especially up front. There's a point where we're gonna have to say, okay, now we gotta assess. But yeah, if we really make a push to get as much community involvement and feedback as we can, that'll do nothing but help us, I think.
I don't know what day of the week 4th of July falls on this year. I don't know if I'll be working or not, but,
it is Thursday.
Oh, I have a call to make that committee, I'll ask her.
No, I'm just thinking, somebody set up a table at the 4th of July celebration.
Exactly.
To take suggestions, you know,
Exactly.
just write down what you think, you
Okay.
know?
So, you want me, I'm gonna talk to, I have to call one of those committee members.
Okay.
I'll ask about that.
Okay.
The last food.
The events committee,
Yeah,
and maybe anytime we have a town function.
that's
we
what I
should-
think, yeah, we should, yeah. the
There'll be a fall festival, there'll be the Christmas thing,
Okay,
so there's,
Yeah, there's opportunities, you know.
okay,
I think last time we did by neighborhoods.
we could have a week of them where people.
I don't think I can buy anything for a whole week.
No, I don't think okay, scratch that.
If you have it for a whole week, everyone will either show up right at the
On
beginning or right
Friday,
at the
yeah,
end.
that's.
We just have to be aware of like, what are their, knowing our local community, their standing commitments during the week.
Yeah, we'll make
Be
sure,
aware of.
yeah, I think,
But I think a weekday and then a Saturday.
sure, I think so, okay.
All right, so if you would like, I would be happy to take the things we've talked about and craft some survey questions so that you have something to respond to rather than just
Yeah, I like
thinking
that.
of a question.
I do too, I
Yes,
think
thank
that's
you, would you do that for us? We would be so grateful.
And I will get those out to you, probably in a couple weeks.
Okay, great. When we can still think of questions too,
Yeah.
how,
Yeah,
All
You want-
thoughts, we'll go over this in all of our meetings.
yeah, how we want the response to read, whether it's a comments or,
So I
1 to 10 or.
I could start a document in our SharePoint.
Sure,
So that
Okay.
we're all writing on one document.
Okay.
Questions.
yeah,
Is everybody able to
that's a great,
access?
this is a great topic for a shared document, I think this is good, yes,
Yeah, yes, thank you.
yes, excellent. Okay,
all right.
I'm excited, this is gonna be good, is anybody else excited? I'm feeling happy about this.
Yeah.
All right, So what do you need, anything, what do you need us to have ready for you next time we see you?
And when is next?
Well, I will,
Next time will be, so we're going to meet on the first, if that, may I say this, Kevin?
yeah,
Okay, Kevin's been very generous to, mark off the first Wednesday of every month for us. He will come to a meeting, just like this one. And so I'm really grateful for that, because that's a lot of time he's giving us. Thank you.
yeah.
Okay, so what do we need to have ready for you for next May 1st?
I will, get the survey questions to you and just get responses, get them ready, you know, or also provide any others that you have.
Okay,
And then also be considering dates. If you want to do initial open house before the summer, be considering dates
okay.
that we could do towards the end of May, 1st of June. I mean, that's a
I
short
think that
notice for them.
timeline sounds more practical.
Yeah.
Yeah, because once we'll be in July, in the first part of August, there's a lot of people gone.
Okay.
People with children.
Darlene, are you up for, can you check into, you just seem like the person for digital distribution, just our options, do you know what those would be? For
For the survey,
Yeah, and then I'll check with,
Survey Monkeys, the Survey Monkeys
Survey.
is the cost.
Oh, okay.
But I,
So we have
I,
it.
Look
I,
into that.
I
Okay, look into
might
that.
have an old account.
I will find out because
It's
of that.
probably more secure.
And you, but you can change Google Forms, so there's just one submission.
Okay, we'll check, okay,
Yeah.
let's check on those, and I'll meet with the
Survey
mayor.
Monkeys.
I'll meet with the
good.
mayor
I
on.
know, but I was gonna check with Qualtrics, which is what the school used for those surveys, they sent out those
Okay.
surveys. And I know Qualtrics is extremely expensive, but I'll see if they can do something for us.
Oh, thank you.
And I'll find out
In
about.
fact, The other guy at Pike County, Roger Carter.
Okay.
Because we're doing something with the school for, with his grad students. And they've been doing some surveys for us using Qualtrics. And so I'll talk to Roger and see if there's anybody who can do some Qualtrics.
And I know I brought this up at the last meeting too, it's, we need to talk about, are we going to just do one survey per household, one survey per person in the household?
I think if you send it to.
Per person.
I think so too.
A husband and wife do not think the same.
Right, right.
Okay, well, okay, so
Do you like addresses of everybody? I think, or did you get names of everybody?
So I think,
So
Steve, I'm sorry.
there'll be ways, there's
Ladies
ways
and gentlemen,
to do that.
we got 5 minutes, we'll be done, then we can talk however we want.
Okay.
So, yeah, I know. So Val just asked about whether it's, you know, one per person and, or per household. I think a paper one you have to do per household, but I think a digital one we could do.
Why not two?
Because we're gonna piggyback on the town mail, I guess that depends on our budget.
Well, we can have a stack of them in the town hall, someone can go
Well,
pick one
sure,
up.
sure, but if we mail them out, I don't really think we should mail a stack, I think.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, and the mail out is, in my opinion, is just for the people who don't have. them.
Okay, so how do you, we'll have to figure out how you wanna control.
So in the
stuff.
town newsletter, we could say there's going to be a general plan survey, going out. Everyone will have access via this monkey or whatever, this digital survey. If you would like a paper copy, give them the option to come into the town.
And those can be numbered.
And I have, housebound neighbors, or if you are unable to get to their, I'm sure it would be very limited number that would have to be mailed.
Although I think we should mail one to every house, because I think it will up our participation by a ton. If it's there and they just, especially if it's postmark paid, that's the best chance we have of getting people, because they don't want that extra work.
But they should be numbered, because.
Yeah, let's do
You
that,
know,
number them all, because that way, now what about, we'll have to talk about duplicate and how control for that, because.
Any
Well,
thoughts on this? You have that smile on
You
your
have
face.
that smile, he's giggling at us.
It's,
I guess all I can do is ask.
you gotta make sure that there's no way of knowing by number
Who it is.
who it is.
That's right. So really, all we probably can do is ask, say, please don't fill us out again, because we're gonna know it's you, because your answers are gonna be exactly the same. So please. So,
Do you have any suggestions?
About,
We will get more than 50.
okay.
We
That's
have a
all.
very
we're
high
not gonna get a lot.
voter
We
participation.
really have balanced stuff in some cases.
I think the best way to control it, as you said, then would be through Qualtrics
Survey.
or SurveyMonkey. You can also have, if you have a neighbor that you know is shut in, you can deliver it to their house. You can pick it up and deliver it to their house and return it type thing. So
But we should.
you gotta, there's a fine line between saying you can only have this one and we want your input.
That's right, that's right.
But what are the chances that someone in town is gonna fill out 100 copies of a survey to skew the results?
It's not.
Oh.
It's not. There, well, there'll be a couple who might.
Exactly.
I mean, we would simply print out as many copies as we have residents.
I just read every comment on the transportation study, and there was like 30 of them that were, looked like they were written by the same person,
Oh.
or at least they
Oh,
were
your
very
point is,
coordinated in their responses. I mean, the wording was identical.
No, you're right. Okay, well, thank you. Are we, any last, questions?
Thank you so much.
Yes,
So
Kevin, thank you
good.
so much. We're so delighted with what you did for us. Okay, does anyone else have anything? Okay, do we have to motion to close this or no?
Yeah, you might as well.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I motion that we close the meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Motion.
Aye.
Sure.
A motion to.
To adjourn, of course. All in
Yes.
favor?
Yes.
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 Yes, it's unanimous. Meeting adjourned.
Yes.
All right, thanks, everybody.